Welcome back to another episode on Oak and Rock Fatherhood. As always, we are the co-hosts of this great delivery of streaming and content focused on family. I was going to drop some explicitives, but I realized it's too early in the podcast to kick that off. We got to build the hype up and start dropping some of the more choice words. But for right now, we're dropping the word on fatherhood. Anthony, what's good, man? Long time no see. Well, we were talking, what was it, 8 hours ago, running our Twitter space on fatherhood?
Yeah, man, not too long ago. And we definitely were talking about fatherhood. And I think most who hear us speak or talk, it's probably anything but fatherhood. I mean, everything but fatherhood. So we have some good discussions, man. I would have to say, Dad's Day, doing these live streams, and I'm excited to dive into tonight. Hopefully, we get some crowd participation, get some questions asked. But if not, we do have the 5 top frequently asked questions that we get, and they're not easy questions, but we always hit them out of the park.
Well, that's the thing, man. When people ask us questions, it's a great moment to see kind of how our brains work on the topic. And so when it comes to fatherhood, the fact that we think about this so much, we come with a rapid fired answer because we've been asked the same question many times. But these are our top 5, and we consolidated them because if you could bring all of the information together that we're putting out into the world, and you could say, "Hey, man, try this," and they went and they just did those 5 things, I would see it changing their life. If you give them the best 5 you could give them, that would definitely change their life. And so that's how I view this episode. Here are the 5 things. So when people are saying, well, what would you do? Watch this video. Check out these 5 things. Here's 5 quick things that you could do, you could jive with. And so 5 is the minimum. These are the top 5 frequently asked questions we're getting. But if anybody's in the chat, they're asking questions, that's going to add to it. Anything else we can do, that'll add to it. But here are the 5 that we're addressing. We're going to go through each. We'll break them down. But again, if you have a question or something you want to talk about, feel free to throw that in the chat. This is what we do, though. We normalize the discussion on fatherhood. You're playing the greatest role you've ever played in the life of another human being. Let's give that some attention. Let's give that a little bit more diligence and intentionality. I don't even know if that's a word, but we're going with intentionality because I like it. I use it a lot. And I've never looked up to see if it's legit. But you got to be intentional as a dad. You can't just wing this 24/7. And while raising a kid, it's not too difficult. At the same time, there's a lot of things you don't know. And that there's a dichotomy there. It's not really hard to be a peaceful person and to connect with somebody and treat them like you like them. Like, that's something any of us can do. But being able to show up every single day with a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old and beyond's ideas and sense of wonder and their unique approach to life, you've got to find a way to answer all their questions. And so what we do is we swap notes. I learn from you, you learn from me, we learn from the other men that we roll with. And in doing so, all of us are better dads. And that's why we're running frequently asked questions. That's why we're better fathers. And that's why we run a weekly call and have a channel dedicated to fatherhood inside the Fraternity of Excellence. It's that important. We need to normalize the discussion. And so it shouldn't be weird for some dude to tune in tonight. Like, what you doing? I'm watching Oak and Rock Fatherhood, the greatest fucking channel in the goddamn world, talking about fathers. And there goes the swearing. And we are off to the races.
3 minutes in.
Let's go.
That's what it's about, though, brother. It's about showing up. And I think reading that book is going to be powerful. It's going to be a much needed resource to raise the bar in our parenting skills, and especially with us, right? People come on here, and we do have a lot of answers about fatherhood, about parenting. We've researched it, we've lived it. We're both raising kids, but we're always learning, and that, to me, that's the key, right? That's the example I'm setting my kids. If I'm passionate about being a father, which every man should be, but I'm also passionate about investing time to becoming a better father. I don't just stop and say, "Oh, I'm the world's greatest dad." I want to keep learning. I want to learn from other fathers, other men. I want to learn from my kids. I want to learn from you. This is, this is part of the magic. What happens is when you open the discussion and, like you said, you normalize it, you get answers, right? People ask hard questions, difficult questions, and we give them real answers.
That was something actually we covered today on Dad's Day Twitter Space. We were talking about the resource, and I was like, I run this. We talk frequently. We have weekly calls. We have daily calls, and you and I are messaging multiple times a day throughout the day about fatherhood. And yet still, when you had dropped the book, the Power of Showing Up, I immediately went and grabbed the audiobook. I was like, if this is something that you're seeing or from the authors, we respect their previous work, and they've got another one, why would we not want to jump on and continue our learning in this process as well? And so even if you're a father of a teenager, it's never too late to continue to learn and to add more tools to the toolbox. And, and for dudes who like guns, you can never have enough guns. People who like money can never have enough money. You know, people who have children, you can never know enough about being as good of a dad as you can be for those kids. That's kind of the category I put it in. Like, it's never enough. And so when people say, well, how can you talk about fatherhood throughout the day on your tweets? From 10 to 11, you're talking about fatherhood. Tomorrow, you run the fatherhood inside the Fraternity of Excellence call. Tonight, we're streaming about fatherhood. People are like, oh, that's too much. And we're still like, man, we're barely scratching the surface. And so either we're hooked on a drug and we're just addicted and we can't admit it, or there really is a lot more to this than the simple, I'm a dad. Like, maybe there's a lot more levels to that than just saying, oh, I had a kid and so I'm a father now. Maybe you can learn how to be a good one. Or maybe we're crackheads hooked on fucking fatherhood discussions. I don't know.
I think there's a lot of problems, right? There's honestly, I would say that there's many of us who suck at being parents. That's why we need to keep having these conversations, right? We need to inform people, help people, support people. If people were really good at parenting, then their kids, their grown adult children would not be coming to us with issues. So we're going to do what we have to do to keep providing that word.
I love when you take a straight shot across the bow, like straight up. Hey, if you guys weren't so broken, we wouldn't have a job. We wouldn't have to be doing this. We could talk about crypto or something else. We're here because we need to be here. And so with that, we put the blast out. We've given some time for people to jump in. I actually just threw it on Twitter. So we'll get a few of those folks in here, which is awesome because I love the Dad's Day squad. I love the guys rolling. Big shout out to Tim Dolan. He's one of the ones that's out there crushing with us all the time. I hope you're feeling better, brother. All right, let's dive into our first question. And so whenever we talk about peaceful parenting, every single time, I'm willing to say 100 out of 100 times, I see you put a tweet out or I put a tweet out about not hitting our kids, the response is, well, what if they were going to run into the road? Anthony, you're saying you're not hitting your kid and a grown man comes up to you and he tries to prove you wrong by saying, but what if your kid would run into the road, as if it's a gotcha? Yeah. I don't just want your response. I know your answer to the question. I want to hear your answer with, why do you think that keeps getting brought up to us?
Because I think the person or the father who's asking that question, they don't want to change, right? They don't want to find an answer, or they don't want a better way than what they're doing, because it would mean that they have to put in some work. They have to learn something that they don't know. They have to stop using violence to justify teaching. And those are difficult things. You know, it's like when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? You can be smashing everything. So like you said, you know, the answer is a million different things you can do besides hitting your kid, right? Prevention, don't let them run into the street, play in the backyard, keep yourself within distance between the street and your child. This way, if the child does run out, you can stop them. And you don't have to physically hit them to stop them. You're a grown man. You can pick a child up and you can move them and replace them somewhere else. But the more important question, I think, is what you asked: is why do they keep having this response, or why do they think that they're stumping us? Bless you. Why do they think they're stumping us with such a just such a simple answer, right? On their behalf, they're saying, oh, you have to hit your kids if they run out into the street. There's nothing else you can do. I win the argument. Now what? How do you respond to that?
You know, and that's what I love about it. It's always from a place of them trying to prove us wrong. They want to prove the point that you do have to hit your kids. That's why they're saying it. Yes, you do. I'll give you an example. If your kid's running the road, you'll hit them. No, I won't. Do you think if one of my kids is running to the road, I'm just like, all right, you're safe now. What the fuck are we talking about? You know, you can't realistically think that is your argument. That's a solid foundation to stand on as a man. It's such a trite, almost crass fucking immediate response from these motherfuckers who want to just justify their continuation of use of corporal punishment, that they're not even willing to present. They're not even willing to put effort into their counterpoint. I think that's what bothers me about it. You know, if my kids were to run towards a road, I would run and scoop my kid up. You know, if they're just oblivious, they're just taking off because they saw a balloon on the other side of the road. My situational awareness should be beyond theirs. I should see the balloon before the kid sees it. I should be aware that my kid would want to go to that balloon, and I should already have the steps mapped out to where if that happens, here's how I'm going to get them. That's how we do a lot of things as dads. You know, they call it your dad reflexes, But what it really is that a man, when he has a family, he's just more aware. You're thinking of the what ifs. If he falls off this wall, I'm going to reach over with my right hand and grab him. If they get sucked out a little bit or go beyond this line on the ocean and they start to get pulled, I'm going to get up and pull them in. If they get pulled beyond that, I'm just going to run and grab them really quick before Riptide does. If they go towards you know what I mean? If we're at a dog park and a dog gets free, how am I going to get them? I'm going to pick them up and hold my back to the dog. You go through these scenarios in your head that way you can answer it. And so, again, running to the road isn't going to happen because I'm already aware. If they were, I'd run and grab them. At no point would I be yelling at them for running towards the road. I would explain to them, hey, what's up, bud? We're doing sprints over here. Let's focus on the grass where there's no cars. That's a great place to go because these guys can't see you. Oh, I didn't know that. I know. You're a kid. That's my job to teach you, not to hit you because you don't know something. And so when it comes to what would you do if your child runs into the road, I'd walk over and I'd grab them, or I'd prevent it from ever being an issue. I would talk to my kids about why they don't run to the road before they do it. I would talk to them about it after. I would not use corporal punishment or strike my child because they were running towards the road. And anybody that's putting this argument up, understand that you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper if you're trying to stump me on reasons to hit a kid, because that one's not going to fly. But thanks for coming out and trying.
Always. No, I'll add too, Zach, that I think it's that person who says that remark. They're always looking at the worst possible scenario. And I don't mean in a good way, like being prepared, but they always have a negative attitude that something bad is going to happen. And I guarantee you it's not just with their kid. It's probably with their career, with their wife, with their friends. It's everything they do. Well, what if this happens? Right? What if the moon gets eaten by space aliens? What happens if the sun burns out? I think those are the people that you're dealing with, right? It's not a rational discussion either way.
What if you and your wife fall out of love? What if you grow old and something happens? What if you get cancer? What if you you can't get married because what if something were to happen? What if you were to ever get divorced?
What if your wife doesn't like you anymore? I'm never getting married.
Oh, you're going to win $1 million. What if you have to pay taxes? You don't want to do that, right? You don't want $1 million. Why do you look for a reason to have a problem with anything? Those are the kind of people.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll give you $1 million or a winning lottery ticket. Oh, I got to pay taxes on it. Okay, never mind. I'll give that to somebody else then. Come on, dude. You get with the program. Life is hard enough. Don't get in your own way. But that's the people we're dealing with. And it is one of the top questions. So we had to make it number one because it's brought up every single time. Let's go to question 2.
Question number 2.
I'll let you ask this one, so I'm not rapid firing at you.
That's good. How do you deal with bedtime, dinner time, or temper tantrums?
This is a good question because this is coming from somebody who's looking to use different tools. And so sometimes they'll come at it with that little snarky voice. Well, what about when they're flipping out, bro? But sometimes they come in at genuine. So that's my snarky voice. Here's my genuine voice. Hey, I'm trying to do better. I don't know how else to deal with this, though. I've only been dealing with it with yelling or spanking. And so when you remove those, well, what do you do now? With each of them, we both have really pushed the message that you need to be proactive with it. You need to take a proactive approach to thwarting the issue before it happens, to dealing with it and handling it before it becomes a big problem. And so ways you can do that, if you know that, let's go in order. So let's go with dinner time and bedtime, and we'll kind of throw tantrums into there. If you know at dinner time it's going to be rough and they're not going to want to eat the peas and you're making peas, why don't you talk to them before dinner's even served and be like, all right, hey, bud, we're having pea and steak casserole and this, that, and the other. What are you thinking? Are you hungry? How was your day today? Are you getting after you do your workouts? All right, cool. So what are we going to do? We're going to eat? Awesome. You like peas or no? No, I know you don't like peas. What else would you like? And I would go through that whole thing, dude, and I would either have them pick something else as a side, or I would have them not eat the peas and just eat their steak. And then I would go about my business, and I would not sit there and think, oh, you're going to be a fat adult because at 5 years old, you didn't want to eat the peas with your steak. And that's something that you've taught me, is to not really make these things bigger than they are. This is a micro moment. And the problem here, and I would say even with bedtime, instead of making it fun with the brushing of the teeth, and, getting together on the same page and having fun with it and trying to race each other or timing it with something, you could go out of your way and make it something that the two of you can meet each other on. You could do something that's going to bring you two together. And when it comes to that tantrum, instead of being afraid, and this is the point I was going to make earlier, most adults are afraid. If I let my kid win, if I let them be right, if I don't make them eat their peas, somehow that's going to teach them that the whole world has to give them everything. and they're going to be these weak, entitled, spoiled little shits. And, you know, and it's, you laugh, I laugh, because we see the truth there, but it's the same thing as the kid that's in a pool saying, I'm afraid of the sharks in the pool. It's a reality to that kid. In that kid's world, there's really a bug or an animal in the pool. And you're like, you can see the bottom, man. There's no bugs or there's no sharks. You know, that same adult, I'm starting to see it from their eyes and be like, you truly believe that if you don't force your kid to do this, they're going to be bad people. And you're missing entirely by forcing them to do something they don't want to do. You're turning them into a bad person. You're ruining them. You're ruining that sense of self and freedom and individuality. You're taking that from them. And so with adults, you know, it's kind of hard to really shake that reality and to really point out their flaws until they're willing to do it. Because then they'll see like, oh shit, it's not that bad. And we've seen that in FOE. Oh, yeah. Guys will send us photos all the time. Like, hey, look at us happy at bedtime, happy at dinner time, happy family meal. We get that, but those dudes bought in. Like they bought into the system and then it happened. For men that aren't bought in yet, I understand, you know, the struggle they're having. They're afraid, man, and they can't get over that fear.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen easy. It's not a, you know, snap your fingers and your kids are doing what you say. There's a lot to it, right? And I would say from, if we break it down to a principle standpoint, you know, how do we do these things? Well, what we do first and foremost is we treat our kids with dignity, with respect, with commitment and dedication, right? We don't deviate from the plan of who we are. We don't look at ourselves in the mirror and say that we're a good person. We treat people with respect. I respect myself, but because my kid will not eat peas or they won't go to bed at the time that I want, I'm going to deviate from that plan, and I'm going to be this raving lunatic, this upset grown man who lets a child's emotions control their emotions. We can't go down that path first and foremost, right? Everything starts with us. So if we are calm, if we have patience, those things are not going to be a problem. They're not going to be a distraction. And I know that's not an answer on how you deal with them, because I think you gave great answers, right? The prevention, but we also need to be in the right state of mind. You need to have mental clarity when you are doing a job that involves raising children. If you are not clear, if you don't know what your mission is and you're operating on autopilot or you're operating from chaos, you are going to harm your child, right? You're either going to neglect them or you're going to abuse them emotionally or physically. So we have to lean into it. You have to lean into the process. You have to look at it like something, and you have to say, I want to get good at this. I want to be a better parent. I want to be a better father. How do I go about it? What do I do? Here are the steps. I mean, I don't know how many times we've broken them down. If you listen to us and you don't know how to do these things, you're not listening.
Well, we've said it enough times, dude. And that's one of the things I really like the way you go about breaking it down is let's take the emphasis off the kid doing the wrong thing and let's focus on how a parent can create an environment where the right things happen. What I mean, the right things is the things that bring people together and they don't divide them. I want to give a big shout out to Thor down there in the chat. What's up, brother? Great to see you. Appreciate you tuning in and taking time out of your day to support what it is we're doing here. As we continue to get after it, though, you know, I'm thinking like there are men out there who are setting the example. They're starting to realize like, oh shit, social media has really been taken off and it's been talking a lot about self-improvement. It's been talking about a lot about like what right looks like, how to be a better individual. And you're willing to accept like, all right, if I eat a certain way, I'll get certain results. If I read certain books, I'll get certain results. If I speak to my woman a certain way, I'll get certain results that I want. Never do we say, if I start parenting differently, I'm going to get different results. Men will change their entire game. They'll go across the red pill. They'll go across pickup artists. They'll go across these things. And they'll say, oh, I got to change the way I care. I got to dress a little better. I got to get myself in shape. I've got to carry myself like a man of confidence and value. Why aren't we seeing that same energy and that same focus applied to being a father? If I carry myself a certain way, if I speak a certain way, if I'm open a certain way, I'll get better results in connection with these kids. Yeah, you know, it's a difficult question. Thing. But I honestly think it's worth us diving more into. You know, maybe not in this episode, but obviously, you know, when we go and break things down, we go into the weeds. And I'm going to bring this up on our fatherhood call.
I'm going to have to address it. So
I'm saying I'm going to bring this shit up on the fatherhood call, man, because it's on the back of my mind. It's like, why? And part of me wonders, this is just off the cuff thinking. Sex is a much more openly accepted and desired thing. Sex feels good. It happens in the moment. And it's something that you could say all men want. a lot of fathers, they don't really want that connection with their kids as much as they just want things to be easy. You know what I mean? They just want a peaceful home. But when you want sex, you're like, I got to go get sex from that girl. You don't ever look at your kids and like, oh, I got to go get peace and connection with those kids. I think we should start looking at it like that. Like, I want my kids to be strong individuals. And in doing so, I've got to realize that requires me to act and speak a certain way. I've got to embody the values I'm hoping that they are understanding when I espouse them. And so when I say, hey, go live free, kids, go be strong individuals, be strong Americans. And then I go and I put a mask on my face, I take 35 jabs, and I'm afraid of anything that happens, and I do everything I'm told to do. The kids are like, Dad, you're something's not jiving here. Like, what is it? And so in that situation, you've got to understand that if we were to be more intentional as dads and treat our engagement with our kids as much as we treat our engagement with our wife or treat our engagement with other men, we would see these results happen so much faster. We'd get the life and relationship we wanted to have. And the bedtimes, dinner times, tantrum times, that shit would, A, the tantrums would be minimal if happening at all. And B, it like when we had dinner together, both at your house and at my house, dude, that was so cool, calm, and collected. Like, I was with your kids, you were with mine. Like, there was literally nothing but discussions, questions, conversations, happiness, and people getting to know each other. That's how family dinner should be. You should be able to bring anybody off the street, sit down. Hey, man, here's how we do it. And your kids will be like, hey, what's going on, stranger? My dad found a bum on the road. What's up? Where are you from? What's your story? And you should be able to sit there instead of like, hey, don't say this and don't do that and sit straight, eat your meal. Yeah. Man, it's a time of connection and peace.
No, absolutely. And you just show your kid that you have, first of all, you have no trust in them to behave because you have no trust in yourself and your teachings. So if you have to order your kids to behave, that's just a admittance of failure, right? You're admitting that you haven't taught them anything. But to go back to your question, why, why are men not holding other men accountable as far as parenting? And the examples you brought up fitness. So if you're a man and you have friends and you are the odd man out, you're out of shape, you're fat, you're overweight, they're going to call you out on it. There's going to be accountability. Same thing with women. If you're a man and if you're married and your marriage is shit, or if you're dating and you can't get women, other men are going to call you out on it, right? They're going to say, hey man, what's going on? The problem with parenting, what I see is the other party never has a voice. The kid never gets to step into the arena and talk about what's going on with them. It's always the parent. So I think that's why those discussions don't happen, because other fathers don't listen to their kids. They have that complex that you just spoke about, right? I can't give my kid power. I can't give him run of the house because they're afraid. Yeah, I can't let him win. Well, we're winners in this house, but my kid can never win. How does that even make sense? That's all I had to say about that.
Man, that was like the priming. All right, we're going to dive into that shit a little bit later. Let's get to that next question. Give a shout out to Tyler B. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Good to see you. Appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully you can take something amazing from this discussion. We're about to dive into our third most frequently asked questions. And that is, by not hitting your kids. So I get to ask you this one. By not hitting your children, aren't you making them weak in a hard world? Hey, they asked it. I'm just representing the people here.
Yeah.
All right. And on to the next question.
No, I think, no, in all honesty, I think one of the weakest things you can do is hit a child as a grown man. And we really need to be honest with ourselves. If you are 200 pounds and you're hitting a 40-pound child, you're hitting a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old, there's nothing that is going to benefit the child in those moments. There's nothing they're learning. There's nothing that's going to make them stronger. We forget that kids they're impressionable, man. They're sponges. They absorb everything. What you say to them, how you interact with them, and especially if you're physically hurting them. So if the world is harsh and difficult, that is not your job to make your kid prepared for that world. You need to work on yourself so you don't see the world as fucking difficult. You need to be a better and stronger man so you don't have to take it out on a little child and say, I'm preparing you for a world because I'm such a weak piece of shit that I don't know what to do. And I don't want you to be worried when you grow up and have to face the same pain that I'm now facing.
So I wish I went first. Following that up, man. Listen, I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle because I think you covered that well. And honestly, if let's go on a tangent for a brief second here.
Let's do it.
I wish, and I mean this, I wish that like TMZ or like whatever, what are the shows like all those family things are on? Maybe CNN, I don't even fucking know. Whatever one that has all the family shows, I think it's like
PBS.
Hey, sure, it's called PBS. If they could get their cameras here and just follow us around for a week, see our family, see how we do things, it would blow people's minds. Because in this world where everything is bad and everything's wrong, we are literally making more moves than I'm making more moves and doing more things and seeing more opportunity than ever. We're sitting here. We were having a discussion tonight on like all the different goals that we've set and some of the updates and upgrades and just different things they're going to be bringing to the table. We were having a whole talk about that. And at no point did I think or it crossed our mind that this is the wrong time to do this because the world isn't perfect or the economy isn't right. And I like that doesn't even cross my mind because I'm not operating in their world. I'm operating in ours. In our world, there's growth and opportunity everywhere. People are saying the world is dark. We're saying the world is what the world has always been. It's just there. Life just is. It's apathetic. It's not for or against. It's just doing its thing. And our job is to find meaning in what it is we're doing within that thing that's just doing its thing. And if time is just passing, man, if people could just see how we wake up and we go and do our thing, like you wake up, you'll go out, meditate, do your coffee, you have a cigar, whatever, see your family. I wake up, see my kids, rally them around. You're going to the gym. I'm bringing the kids down there to the gym. My wife's going to school. Dude, our families are doing so much. How is that possible in a world that's so dark and so heavy and bringing us all down? See, it isn't. Because in our world, we are in charge of reality. It's our frame. If you want to pitch it as something, we have framed it to where inside our frame, life is good. Opportunity is bountiful. Our friends are strong. Our women are happy. Our kids are smiling. You know, the health, wealth, relationship, finances, spirituality, like our connection to everything. It's growing and booming. And how is that possible during a recession? Well, it's possible because Joe Biden, your favorite celebrity, whatever politician, they're not living in my head. They're not living in my home. I keep that bullshit out. I am the filter, and that shit just hits me and falls away. There's no need for my wife or kids to be worrying about what's happening in Ukraine. There's no need for us to be worrying about what's happening in a place that nobody gives a shit about us. And I'm not even talking to Ukraine. I'm talking to other places in America. And so when I look at, aren't you making your kids soft? I'm surprised that the people asking this question don't understand that a man who can't control his emotions without a physical outburst is a weak man. Because a strong man wouldn't ever have to hit a kid. Nobody could push him to the limit where he had to erupt, especially not a young child who's just making mistakes because they're kids. They're spilling the paint. They're spilling the water. Dude, I've had more scratches on my vehicles and more windows blown out of my house for my son and daughter than I want to admit. And not once did I react in a manner of just eruption and, oh, how dare you? How could you? You know how much fucking money that I don't care. You're a kid hitting a ball. You know what I said when he knocked out our first window? Hey, man, your swing's getting a lot stronger.
Nice
Literally in the moment. Yeah, that's pretty much a nice swing, man.
A hell of a swing.
I told him, he looked at me with like, oh shit, in his eyes. I'll never forget it in our backyard. It was a tennis ball too. And he just crushed it. Line drive. I didn't catch it. Hit the window behind me. I was like, oh, dude, your swing's getting really strong, huh? And he was like, cool. I'm not in trouble. I'm like, dude, it's just a window. And honestly, if that window was that important to me or I was that concerned, I wouldn't be standing in front of it throwing you a ball where you could hit it at it. That's on me. See, I could have turned it around. I could have faced any way I wanted. I was facing the house, whatever. Mistakes happen.
Wait till they start driving.
I'm not ready yet. Let's give me some time, all right? Baby steps here. And so in this, I would say men who are hitting kids are making them weak and unprepared for this world. I would say corporal punishment is a weak tool to use because it's not that you're teaching them to be able to push through pain or to respect the dad or to obey authority. What you're doing is certain people are allowed to touch you if you don't want them to. If you don't listen to what I say, I'm not going to explain my words to you. I'm going to use physical force to force you to do what I'm saying. I can't control my emotions, and therefore they're lashing out, and I'm going to take that out on you. That's what you're teaching your kids. Imagine teaching your kids, hey, mistakes happen. Here's how you own it. Hey, here's how we push through by showing them Dad's not going to flip out with all the bullshit society's throwing his way. Dad's going to fucking run them over. You say that I can't go out because COVID, I'm going outside. You tell me that, I don't even know, family men aren't supposed to be crushing it, physically. I'm going to get my ass in the gym. You're supposed to have a dad bod? No, fuck that. I've got a father physique. Oh, you're supposed to be broke buying all the newest things? Fuck that. I'm going to stack and get rid of my fucking debt that shackled me down. Oh, you're supposed to stay calm and stay collected and divide yourself and just connect on Zoom. How about no? How about we go and meet in person? How about we go out and connect with other human beings? How about we talk to other motivated individuals who aren't afraid to live their life? There's a big issue with families, and especially family men, being viewed as a safe path. They think that you're playing it safe by having a wife and children. I think you are playing it on hard mode. You are doing the hardest thing. You are taking responsibility for the life of other individuals and guiding them through a world with a lot of obstacles. And you're doing that while building yourself up at the same time. And in doing so, without the use of corporal punishment, you're going to make those people you're leading so much stronger. And so when people come at me with this question, you're making your kids weak by not hitting them, I'm laughing because they think that the faux strength, that's the same dad who's going to be cleaning his shotgun when the daughter comes home with her date, thinking they're going to shoot a teenager instead of talking to their child about dating, about sex, about how to take care of themselves and let the right people in their life. See, that's the hard shit that I'm doing with my kids, and they're going to be prepared for it. They don't need to operate in fear.
No, that is the hard way, right? As men, we should be doing the hard things. Hitting a child is easy. Having difficult conversations is extremely hard.
Being pissed off and not having that outlet and then being able to speak it through, swallowing, being able to get rid of that reaction, maybe how you were raised, that's not fucking easy, man.
No.
There are times where nothing would be easier than to put a fucking hole through a wall. You're like, are you fucking kidding me? That's childish. That's an adult temper tantrum. You might as well lay on the ground and start slapping your hands and feet around like a little bitch. It's unacceptable for an adult to act that way. It's completely unacceptable for a grown man to be angry at what his kid did and just go around and start throwing things or yelling obscenities or talking shit and making fun of the kid, or go in your room, pull your pants down. I'm going to show you. I'm going to teach you a lesson. Bro, you didn't teach them anything. They're just afraid of you. And next time they're going to hide that shit. They're going to spill it or do the wrong thing. They're going to hide. They're going to be drunk somewhere or high somewhere. And they're going to want to call you for safety, but they're going to be more afraid of what you'll do to them that they won't call. Instead of saying, yo, you can't get me mad. And in our book, The Power of Showing Up, that's the right name, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay. I'm second guessing myself. We're seeing through their research, the consistency of action in youth is what leads to the actions as adults. Yes. So by not yelling about that broken window, by not yelling or making fun of them with that first boyfriend, girlfriend, by not doing those things, when they're 10 years later, they're stuck somewhere, they will call me and know my dad has been consistent and he will be consistent now. And then they'll tell their friends, hey, my dad's going to come get us. We're fine. Because these kids aren't going to be able to call their dads. Not unless they've been watching Oak and Rock, and then they'll have 10 dads to call, and that's great.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, Zach, so you said if they break a window, right, and the kid, a lot of dads would say, well, if you don't reprimand them or if you don't punish them or if you don't hit them, they're going to think that they can break windows. They're going to think it's okay to do, right? This is the reasoning that they give you sometimes. And when you look at the book, The Power of Showing Up, over and over and over again, the studies, the research, there's a lot of smart people who study things that we read and we try to put into our own words and add into our own lives. But if you're consistently present, if you're calm, if you're collected, if you're leading, if you're showing your kids during a difficult time, during a time of stress, how you're supposed to behave, that's where they learn. That's where they learn how to handle things. If your kid breaks a window and you're the dad who says, well, if I don't smack the shit out of him, he's never going to learn not to break another window. I can't just talk to him about it. Well, what the hell does that say about the communication in your house? If you can't talk to your kid and they don't hear what you're saying, maybe you should stop hitting them and start talking more. Maybe you should start using that communication skill a little bit more. And then when you do speak, your kid, things might get absorbed, right? They might understand instead of cowering in fear or hiding things from you.
Well, think about that too. They did that research. I don't remember. I think it was 3 decades. It might have been two, where they observed them as kids, their interaction with their parents, and then how they were acting. And he said that a bunch of them had kids at that point, and they would still their stress responses or who they would turn to and how they would carry themselves when stressed out. It was those who, as children, couldn't read how their parents would react when they were parents would have inconsistent reactions when they were stressed out with their kids. Meaning, if sometimes mom would yell, other times they wouldn't. Sometimes they flipped. When the kid didn't know, they would have the vital signs of being stressed out, but they wouldn't go to the parent because they were afraid of the parent's reaction because they weren't sure, am I getting yelled at or am I going to be hugged? And so that inconsistency caused them to pull back. And so I wanted to say it was like 2 or maybe 3 decades later, they checked those same kids with their own kids, and they were still showing those signs. 3 decades later, it became their default operating mode to not know how to perform during stress or to be inconsistent themselves because their parents never gave them a consistent lesson or template to follow. And so when we're looking at this, by talking to my kid in the broken window, talking to them when they spill things or something, whatever happens, something goes sideways, I explain it. I've always explained it. Hey, nice hit. But you know what I did? Hey, you got to come with me. Now we got to go shore that up. And so we blocked it with some wood. I was like, all right, bud. So I'm not going to replace that one. I was like, we're going to replace all of them eventually. So now's a good time. So thanks for kickstarting it. But then I explained to him, here's how and why and what. And we were talking about the breakdown of the costs. We were talking about installation. That little broken window led to like a huge discussion on windows and investments in homes and why we have money and why you put money to the side and why you don't get worried about little things like break an arm. We'll talk about it. Break a window. Don't give a shit. Let's be stressed out when things deserve to have some stress with them, and not everything is a stressful event. But if everything's level 10 for these dads, the kids are going to treat spilling milk the same thing as they're going to treat, accidentally discharging a firearm or something else. They're just going to freak out and fucking panic.
Yeah, and I mean, what a great lesson you taught your son, as opposed to the other way, right? The other side of that is a kid who's getting hit, who's getting beat, and you talk about that stress, right? That internal pain. What you're doing is really you're wiring your child's brain to live in fear, to hold on to that stress, to keep that emotion in. And that shows up as all different types of dysfunction, right? ADHD, it'll show up as a child grows up, they'll have all sorts of mental health issues, right? And not just from the hitting. It's not just the physical contact that causes the problem. It's the emotional attachment to the violent hitting. It's who the kid sees himself. It's the pain that they hold on to. It's the failure for them to express what's going on inside, to having loving and caring parent who is there for them when they're in that struggle. When you're a dad, you're supposed to be there for your kids when they are at their worst. If you are the one causing them to go through that pain and feel their worst, where are they supposed to go? Who are they supposed to go to?
That's the right question. And so I just threw on the banner there is if you have any questions for Anthony or Zac, throw them in the chat. A lot of men, they'll watch this and they always come at it from an angle like later on, like, oh, what about this? What about this? We're live. We're sitting here. The door is open. So now the onus is on you. I've thrown the ball to you in your court. If you have a counterpoint to this, I would love to hear it and have that discussion. If you have a different situation that you're in and you'd like us to address it, now is a perfect time. I've got this thing streaming on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. So you've got a lot of places to drop a comment. And so if you've got a counterpoint, you think we're wrong, bring that up and let's talk about it. If you have something else, that like, hey, I'm going through this. What do you guys think? Throw that out there. This is what we do, and so we're on question 3 of 5. And so we're about to throw the next 2 out there. But if you have one, this isn't just us going through our list. We're also still open to answering any questions you may have. So if you've got them, make sure you toss them out there. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, subscribe, spread the good word, because we do need more men talking about being a father and living a little more intentional when it comes to being a father, which means consuming more content. So if you're going to consume something, instead of being distracted about how great the Yankees are doing or focusing on the next NASCAR race or whatever's going on in the political world, why not lean in on something that matters to you? How can you be a better dad? How can you be a better husband? If you want to go all in, check out the Fraternity of Excellence. The link is below, and you can do all those in the same spot. For $100, $100 a month, you can get access to something that will get you healthier, wealthier, stronger physique, better looking game with your wife. Better looking physique with your wife, running more game, improving your sex life, improving every aspect of it, better connection with your kids. Dude, the list goes on and on. We have dudes in there that can fucking do anything. It's impressive.
We got a guy for that.
We got a guy for that. That's our thing. So with that, let's head to question 4.
You plan on having more kids, Zach?
But hell no. If Jackie got pregnant, obviously we would have.
Yeah,
the
no.
baby. There's zero
you don't have
plans.
to answer.
0.0% desire of that. I'm starting to like my freedom again, and the kids are getting a little more self-sufficient, so we can like make a run to the store or whatever. So throwing a baby in that. What about you?
No, but about
they're starting
me.
to grow up, man.
My oldest is 24. I'm gonna be a granddaddy in the future, so I'm not having other kids. Don't talk to my wife about it either.
That's when you get the fix of the baby, but you get to give it away. My sister showed up with my niece, and I was like, "Oh, what a cute little baby!" And it pooped. Here you go.
No, my wife always talking about how she wants another baby for the last probably 10 years.
Do it.
Do it.
Zach is a strong name.
So, yes. So that just leads us to question 4. Should you have kids during times of economic uncertainty?
It's a good question in the sense that these people are trying to figure out, I want to do it right. But I'm nervous when the time is right. Kids get a lot of conflicting messages. Wait till you're 30. Wait till you're established. Wait. They're also telling you, wait until they're teens. That's when kids suck. Wait until they're 2. That's when kids suck. Wait until you're married. That's when the sex stops. Wait until you're 30. That's when your body breaks. We've been told by a lot of people to wait for a long time for some bullshit reasons. Just because others can't handle it doesn't mean you can't. And so this is a personal decision. Bringing another life into the world should not be made lightly. You're taking on the responsibility of another, and they're not asking to be born. You're telling them, I'm bringing you into this world. And in doing so, you need to follow that up with, I'm going to be with you every step of the way for the rest of my life. You don't get a trial run at this. You don't get a trial run at being a dad. You can be an uncle, you can be a brother, you can be a great family friend, but you do not get a trial run at being a father. It's a lifetime commitment without a test run. And so you just need to know. And honestly, you need to just, when you know, you know. And so there's nothing to wait for once you know. So I mean, we're poor examples if you're looking for someone to say, wait. We both had kids early and we love our kids and we wanted to be dads and we made it work. Yeah, and man. So I can't give you any advice outside of what I followed. And what I followed is we had kids as soon as I scripted. We would get married at 21 because I wanted to drink at my wedding. We would have a kid immediately after. We had our firstborn was our son at 22 years old. Our second was our daughter at 25. And so by 25, I was a father of 2 and I'd been married for 4 years. And right now we're sitting, I don't even know, I'm not gonna do the fucking math, but I'm 35 with a 12 and a 9-year-old. They're almost 13 and 10. And dude, I the earlier you have them, the longer you can enjoy them. And I was an E2, I think, when my son was born, and then maybe an E4 when my daughter was. And so I was making like a wicked, like pumped up 32,000 a year, maybe. And so it's not really a money thing. We made it work. Jackie and I, our first TV was like a 20-something inch piece of shit. And we flipped over a Tupperware container and put a little sheet over it. And that was our TV stand. And we were so happy. And we had our first apartment together and we had our little baby in there. And dude, that was heaven for us. And honestly, looking at where we are now, it's like, holy fucking shit. But at the time, that's all we wanted. We were happy together and we wanted the kid and we wanted to start our own little family. And so I didn't care what society was doing. That's what I wanted to do. But I knew I wanted to do that. And so it's less about the money and more about the mindset.
Yeah. And I think it is a legit question. It's something that we hear a lot. I would even say, back in the days, like I don't think my parents ever thought about that question. Right. And I think it was a different world, right? We weren't so concerned about materialism or as much as we are now. So I think when that question is asked in this day and age, it's more so like, should I have kids and do without all these fancy things that I like? Or should I live a more humble within my means and have those children and bring them into the world and share life with them? So I don't know if, I don't know if we've raised our kids peacefully for the next generation and my kids raise their kids this way. I don't even think that question would be a concern. Like people would be like, why would you not want to have kids?
For real?
What? Like, how could you even ask me that question, man? I just raised 3 kids and it was one of the greatest 3 experiences of my life. I would never put a price tag on it. I would never put a fear saying that, maybe we're going to be poor and not be able to do this. That wouldn't even be an answer for me, right? I wouldn't even allow that to happen. I would go out and get a job again, right? If that's what I
Dude, you're talking about being poor. Like, I feel poor right now with my fucking video streaming. I just checked. I was looking at YouTube and I'm all blurred out. I'm like, damn it.
I don't want to tell you.
You got to step it up. Tyler B threw something out there, though. He says, I'm 35 with a 20-month-old girl. We're trying for a second child now. Good job on having sex, Tyler. Keep doing that. Want to give her a sibling. Get after it. Fatherhood is great. Every day is an adventure, and I wouldn't change it for the world. 100%. Dude,
Yep.
And that is the thing, man. There are guys who they'll come in and they'll say, oh, I waited too long. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. You have the kid, have as many as you want, as many as you fucking need, and just get after it and enjoy them every step of the way. And so, again, to the question and to kind of bang on Tyler's point right there, it's not society that should dictate your terms as to the life you want to live. It should never be their choice. You are living your life. You don't need permission from the government. You don't need permission from your grandparents or your parents. You need to start your legacy with you. And like you said, Anthony, I don't think my grandparents even questioned it. They just had kids. And honestly, raising my kids the way that our family is, I won't be surprised at all if they're looking to start families, from the onset. And I'm cool with that because we've had a great time. We are still having a great time. This train is showing no signs of slowing down. And while there are definitely growth where we're all getting to better know one another as we evolve as individuals, like that's a part of the joy. Like that's a part of the fun. So when people think like, oh, well, having kids means you got to worry about this or the other, and your heart's with somebody else and they're running around. And what if something happens? Man, you can't not eat ice cream because you're afraid of a brain freeze. Like you got to sit and enjoy these things. And sometimes things happen. But like looking there with Tyler and what he was saying, and they're looking to they've got a little girl. We've got Tim, he's on there. He's got like an 8-month-old girl. Like people are having these kids young, and guess what? It's making these dudes stronger and more focused. Tyler says, appreciate the conversation, guys. Good to hear dads talking about fatherhood. I'm really trying to just let the girl live free and not control her. Brother, you are on the right channel. Thank you. That's what it's about, man. When you let them live free. And like I said, this is going to tie back into my earlier point. When you let them live free and make their choices and go out and be their greatest individuals in the world, then you aren't afraid to do so yourself because you see the value in it. You want them to live free. You have to do it yourself. You're going to get better at time management. You're going to get better at focus. You're going to get better to operate with less sleep. Like you're going to see what it is you really want from life. And you're going to lose the desire to chase surface level shit. You're going to see that life is about more and you can go out and build that. And kids are great inspiration for doing that to a man.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually take back my answer. I was just thinking about it. There probably are a lot of people who should not have kids.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I agree with you.
The more I think about it, there are a lot of people who are fucked up, who are not fixing themselves, who are putting a lot of hatred and pain, not only onto themselves, but onto their family, onto their children. So I think it's tough, right? I think I wouldn't worry so much about the economic uncertainty. I would worry more about the mental health, emotional instability. I think there's a lot of people there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of things that they need to heal. There's a lot of things that need to be repaired. And, we were talking about earlier, but the studies, the information available to show the dangers of corporal punishment, physical hitting, like those people honestly do not deserve children. And I think that if you were raised in a house that had corporal punishment, that had a lot of physical violence, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, those are the people that I would want to change their minds the most, right? I would want them to see how hurtful and painful it was, and that they would never do that to their kids. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of deep shit in that, right? Where there's a lot of bad people hurting children in the world. So maybe we should just focus on the good people.
That's the sword though that we're bringing there, because those are the guys like Tyler. They're already in it. They're already doing it. And so we're not really helping them. We're just amplifying them and those who need the help. And, I agree with you that not everybody should have kids. And I'll go a step further and I'll say that those who were hit and they went through whatever trauma and they carry that with them, that's the saddest part about all this, because it's preventable. Those parents broke that kid to where they shouldn't have kids of themselves. Otherwise, those kids would have been great parents, great individuals in society. We'd have a great, a better society and better culture at large if we were prioritizing families. But they didn't, and now they broke the kid and they can't. And so that's going to continue a cycle. That's very unfortunate,
Yeah.
but some pull out of it, and for those who do pull out, that's why we continue to reach out to them. That actually, I'm going to tie this a little bit into the next question. So the fifth question we get is it ever too late? And that ties in well to what we're talking about here, because I agree. It's a mindset thing. It wasn't a social thing. It was just a mindset. I wanted kids. But those who have kids and then continue the corporal punishment, they continue the trauma, they're it's the most hurtful to read about and hear about, because at some point as a kid, they were crying and begging for something better. They were begging for peace. They wanted a better dad. They would have sleepovers at friends and pray to God that they could have a family like that person's. And they wanted to get away from that monster, and they couldn't do it. And they couldn't do it because the monster was their fucking parent. And all society is like, hey, just deal with it, kid. It's discipline. Your dad's trying to help you. Your mom's trying to help you. It's good for you. And at some point, and I don't know when this is, and I don't think there's an age as much as just a moment of giving up, to where you accept it and you start to agree with it. And it's almost like a Stockholm syndrome, to where you're like, you're right. I did need to be hit as a kid. I was a bad kid. I was a bad person. You know what? I'm going to make sure my kids are good kids, so I'm going to hit them too. And you're like, damn. That person otherwise was fighting and hating this and pushing against it, but at some point their spirit was broken. And they thought being bad was good, and being hit was a good thing, and hurting and being hurt by your parents was needed. And that's the worst. That's the hardest thing to fucking come to terms with, because they broke. The parent literally broke what was inside that kid that made them bright and happy and hopeful. They destroyed it. And so now they go on and they can carry that pain, and they're going to break the next kid, and they're going to break the next fucking kid. And it's just a long series of broken fucking spirits, leaving a fucking wake of pain and trauma and hurt behind.
That was well said, Zach. And I'm not going to add anything to it. I'm just going to say it's never too late to start peaceful parenting.
We can spiral out of this one, man. It's not too late. We can come back. Look,
that got dark.
Your kid, you maybe you've been doing it for years. Maybe they're teenagers now, and you're like, oh, the formative years are over. Look, it's never too late to start loving your kid enough to get out of the way of yourself and your emotions and your unresolved trauma. Never too late. I don't care if you're 55 years old and your kids are adults. Go up to them and tell them you're sorry. Hey, I'm fucking sorry. What I did to you is fucking wrong. And I hate that this is carried into you. I hate that you're doing it to your kids. I hate that this happened. I hate that's a part of our legacy. But I want you to know I learned some shit. I watched these two bearded dudes in Oak and Rock, and they fucking opened my eyes to what was going on. And you know what? I'm sorry. And that's just not me. And you know what? While I'm not at the age now, and this is me still as grandfather, but you go and talking to your adult kids, tell them straight up, we're not at the point now where I'm spanking or yelling at you, but I want you to know that I'm going to start treating you like I should have always treated you. You're an adult. We're peers sitting here. I'm not always right. You're not always going to be right, but I want you to know I love you. I support you. I've got your back, and I will never, and I recommend you never do what I did to you to your kids. Let's be better. And if you could have that conversation, maybe you could reach that adult child. Maybe that would help them start the healing process themselves. And maybe they only heal 25%, but they spare their kids another 50%. So now their kids growing up only have 20% to get rid of, or 25% to get rid of. Because you helped your kid helped themselves. They did a little bit less to their kid, and their kid grows up and does a little bit less to their kid. And within 3 generations, maybe there is no spanking anymore. Maybe it got fully pulled back because you at 50 spoke to your 30-year-old kid, and you helped the next 10-year-old kid who became the it just continues on. And then all of a sudden, maybe peace finds its way into the home. But I'll tell you right now, I grew up in a home of corporal punishment, and I do not hit my kids. It can change in 1 generation. It's never too late.
It could change right now. It could change in your home today. And I think to your point, right, and that is, you do have that conversation. You apologize. You open your heart to your kid, but don't expect them to fully embrace it, right? Don't think that just because you said it and you have a change of heart that your kid is going to be like, oh, okay, Dad, thanks, right? Thanks for sharing that. You literally smacked the shit out of me for 20 years, and now you said you're sorry. And it's not going to fix it, but it's a start. And anything that you're going to look to improve in your life, you have to push forward. You have to continually get in the reps. You have to fight to make it better, right? It's not just one time. And what you said was perfect, but you have to do that. You might have to do that over and over and over again until your kid trusts you, until they believe you, or your grown child, right, as an adult, until they trust you and they believe you. You have to make amends. And if it's important to you, you do the work. There's no other way. You don't say, "Oh, well, I tried," right? I said I'm sorry once. I hit the kid for 20 years. I told him I'm sorry. He doesn't care about me. No, man, keep doing it. And it's not always a hit. It's if your child saw you yell at them and scream, if that was all they saw from you, they're not going to want to be around you. They're not going to enjoy being around you. They're going to think that they have to walk on eggshells when they're around you. So that's as simple as, again, saying you're sorry or saying, hey, we're going to do things different. And even if your kids are young and you have them in the home and you might have done corporal punishment, you might have done punishments in general. Yeah, I'm going to go completely crazy and say you don't even have to punish your kids. You don't have to punish their behavior to have kids who listen. And that is a big misconception that so many parents get wrong. Right? That's not how we change behavior. We don't change behavior through punishment. And I know this because the world we live in that's fucked up and crazy, people get punished for murdering people. They still murder people. People get punished for raping people. There's still rape. In fact, the people who go to jail for murder go and rape other people. So nobody's learning from punishment. And I don't mean ever, but it's just not effective. It's not a good way that we should be teaching our kids. This is how we grow. This is how we become a better person. By sending you to your room with no dinner, you're going to learn not to piss off dad. That's not what we want to teach, right? We want to teach our kids, hey, listen, you made a mistake. I make mistakes. Again, what that teaches your kid, they'll say, hey, dad, I'm sorry. And they'll mean it, right? You're showing them the examples. So I don't know how I got on punishments and being effective in murder, but it's never too late, man. You can always change your world. You can always change your home. You can always affect positive change within your family, but it takes work.
One of the things that I enjoy looking at, especially in these discussions, especially when somebody's arguing with me, when we're sitting and arguing on Twitter, like mostly on those Twitter spaces, I'll click on their profile and I'll just start scrolling around like, all right, what's their angle? What are they going through? Like, what are they seeing so I can better like connect with them? Like if they're a big fitness freak and they're talking about hitting, like we can talk about fitness. Like that's something they're versed in. And so I can relate that way. And dude, I can't tell you how many times I've done it live. I click on it and I scroll. I'm like, you just said this. You just said, don't allow anybody to tell you what to do. You're a free-blooded American. Yes. And you just told me in our Twitter space that you need to tell your children what to do and you got to control them in XYZ. And like, these are your words. And so let's look at this. A lot of parents that argue with us about what it is we're doing, they come on and like, oh, well, you need to hit them to instill this, this, and this. And you scroll through this shit and it's like, yo, your family's broken. Your kid is a fucking mess. Your other one doesn't speak to you. You and your wife don't have sex or talk to each other unless you're fucking arguing. You've said all this publicly, and you're telling me that you're doing it the right way.
And you're complaining the government's running your life.
It's funny how that works. But guess what? If you were to try it differently, maybe you'd get different results. So if you're struggling, I mean, if your family is absolutely perfect and you hit your kids all the fucking time, I really would like to talk to you. Like, I would love to have that discussion. I'm not even mocking or joking right now. I would love to see what that looks like. And either you're missing something or I'm totally fucking wrong. And that never happens. And so you're fucking missing something. And so I want to talk about it. But if not, and if you are one of those who like you use corporal punishment, you're trying to do what's best, you were raised a certain way and it's all you know, we've taught something different tonight. We've discussed something different. We've shown a different path for you to walk. And so if you're sitting there on the fence and you have questions, we like talking about this. You can catch us from 10 to 11 on Twitter. You can catch us every live stream on Wednesday, 24/7. You can catch us inside the Fraternity of Excellence. This is what we do. And so reach out. Let's have the discussion. And if it's a cost thing, if it's a time thing, you can't link up with us, shoot us a DM on any of our socials or check the contact email below, and we'll answer that as quickly as we can. And we'll get you a custom answer your way, or maybe we'll make it a whole topic if it's big enough, and we'll just talk about it more on the next episode. But listen, if you don't reach out and change something, you're going to stay on the same path you're on, and they might not be bringing you where you want to go. So just make sure you're looking at this from the perspective of your kids as well as yourself, and not just doing what you do because that's the way you've always done it. Anthony, another episode down, man. We covered our top 5. Do you have any questions about our top 5 questions? Anything?
I like the open challenge, the open call out.
I wish more, dude. I can't wait. I enjoy when people do speak up, especially on the Twitter Spaces, but I enjoy it here as well because you get to see us live, have to field a question.
Yeah, no, I mean we've been doing it on Dad's Day on Twitter for a long time, and we've been hit with difficult questions. We've had debates, and I will ultimately always go back to peaceful parenting, to principled parenting. And if you want to, even it doesn't even have to be a debate. If you're struggling, like you said, ask us, right? This is what we do, man. We're answering questions all the time, solving problems. We can teach you how to solve problems in your home by helping you solve the problems that you come to us with.
Everybody wants to be a good dad. We can help you be a great dad. This has been another episode of Oak and Rock Fatherhood. That's Anthony Miglierino. I'm Zac Small. We hope you have a great night. Stay well.